Welcome to Buzzworthy, a spirited conversation about female writers with Jennifer Croll and Sammi Katz. We are so glad you could all join us. I'm Casey Highsmith, Director of Communications here at MOFAD, the Museum of Food and Drink based in New York City. Tonight, we have two amazing guest speakers with us for a spirited conversation on cocktail recipes inspired by the iconic female-identifying authors of past and present. First up, we have author Jennifer Croll, whose work has appeared in a variety of publications, including Nylon and Dazed and Confused, as well as in her previous books, including Free the Tipple, Dress to Swill, and Fashion That Changed the World. With her tonight, we have writer and bartender Sammi Katz, whose work has appeared in the New York Times and the Daily Beast, as well as in her new book, Cocktails in Color. She is also the creator of the blog, A Girl's Guide to Drinking Alone. We are thrilled to have them here together to talk about Jennifer's new book and show us how to make one of these amazing cocktails. So I'm going to hand it over to y'all.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Casey. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm so excited to get to talk to Jennifer today about her amazing new book, Buzzworthy. I know, so pretty. So we're just going to chat a little bit about your process, Jennifer, and why you wanted to write this book. So let's start with, you've written a couple of kind of these tribute cocktail books before. So why are you interested in this idea of a tribute cocktail?
Yeah, so this is actually my fourth tribute cocktail book, which is kind of crazy. There was Free the Tipple, Art Boozle, Dress to Swill, and now this. So I've made at this point over 200 of these, which is a little crazy. But yeah, so tribute cocktails are cocktails in general are something people often use for celebration. And making a tribute cocktail just gives a little bit more focus to that celebration. It gives people something a little bit extra to think about, just another layer. And I feel like it helps people enjoy cocktails a little bit more, just having that extra little bit of something to think about, that connection to that person, that person to sort of celebrate, to cheers to. So that's where my interest comes from.
Yeah. And when did you start bartending?
So I guess that's a bit of a complicated question. I'm not a professional bartender. I'm a home bartender. So I like to think about it in the same way that Nigella Lawson makes the distinction that she isn't a professional chef, she's a home cook. So similarly, I make cocktails at home. And in terms of what the start date for that might be, I guess it depends on how seriously you take my teenage blender drinks that I was making when I was about 16. But more seriously, sort of in terms of experimenting, making real cocktails, probably more like 14 years, something along those lines, since I've been doing things that are a little more complex, a little more polished. And of course, over the process of making these 4 books, it's sort of become more and more and more polished. So yeah, it's been a while, but I do it all at home.
Mm. And so this book, being your 4th tribute cocktail book, is all about female literary greats. Why did you want to focus on female writers for this book?
So I love all the tribute cocktail books that I've done, for the record, but this one might be my favorite. I have been a bookworm my entire life, ever since I was since I've started reading. And I also work at a book publisher during the day as an editor, have done so for 10 years. Prior to that, I worked as a book reviewer for a number of years as well. So really this book is bringing together the two things that I love, books and cocktails. So that's why I'm so excited about it. And why female writers in particular? I mean, I feel like the male canon of writers has been celebrated quite extensively. So that's why I decided to focus on women for this book. But yeah, it's possibly my favorite, and it's also I was talking to Sammi about this before this the official part of this started, but this one is also a larger format than the other ones, so it sort of stands out a little bit. So I'm excited about that.
Gorgeous. Oh my God, it feels like it's been like high time for you to combine your day and your night jobs.
And it finally happened, yeah.
And I mean, there are so many awesome female writers. You narrowed it down to 50, right, for this book. How on earth could you possibly have whittled it down? I would have struggled with that so much.
Yeah, it's something that I've struggled with for all of my books. But the good thing is that because I've done this before, I've got the process down. And the way that I start is that I make this enormous spreadsheet. Like I just put every possible name into the spreadsheet, just all the people that I might include. But then I include information about them as well, just, like the time period that they lived in, worked in, the country that they're from, their racial background, the style of writing, or, in the other books, the style of whatever else it was they were working in. Anything else that's notable about them that I might be able to include. And in that way, I start to try to make the list really varied. And so I try to think about it in terms of, it's more like coming up with the invite list for your dream dinner party, as opposed to just like, you're not including absolutely everyone, you're trying to get the right mix.
Yeah.
So it's just a process of kind of selecting from that list and trying to make sure that everything is really balanced. But yeah, it's hard. It's definitely really hard. And there are always people who I don't include, but I totally could have. So it's not, I'm not going to say that it's like the definitive, these are the only 50 female writers. This is just the selection I made for this book. And I think that they all sit really nicely together in one collection. So
yeah. Were you familiar with every author that you featured, or were some of them kind of new to you as you were building your list?
So most of the authors in this book are fairly prominent. They're all notable. So I was familiar with all of them, but I hadn't necessarily read all of them. But they're definitely a well-known group of authors.
So what is your research process like? How do you begin working on a book like this? What it kind of inspires you when you learn about a woman and then decide to translate her life and work into liquid?
Yeah, it's actually for me, it's a lot of work. I know that, some people have been like, oh, it must be just like, so much fun. You're just sitting at home making cocktails all the time. I'm like, well, there's actually like a fair amount of research that I do.
Like a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So for each author, so the order in which I do things, so I research the author first before I make a cocktail for the author. And I try to do as much sort of autobiographical research as I can. So it depends on what time period they lived in terms of what's available out there. But I'll read, if there are interviews with them, I like to read some interviews with them because it gives me a good sense of the way that they actually present themselves and the kinds of things that they want to focus on. I'll read, if they have passed away in recent years. I'll read all the tributes to them. I'll read, big articles about how they changed society. I try to read the most authoritative things on them that I can as well. Like a nice big fact-checked New Yorker feature is always nice. If I can pick up if they've got an autobiography. I might read it, although reading an entire autobiography is a fair commitment, but I'll at least check it out and flip through it.
Yeah, especially if it's one of 50.
Exactly. But not all of them have one. And you know, I'll try and read their work as well if I haven't. And again, if you know, if there are a few people where I haven't read an entire novel of theirs, I might not get a chance to do that. But I'll read some of it. I'll read like with the poets, it's like easy to read some of their poetry. So just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, although with a lot of the authors, I had already read them. So so that wasn't so much of an issue, but just trying to get like a nice, well-rounded picture of them. And then after I have that, you know, I make all kinds of notes and stuff. And then I just sort of see what strikes me about them. What can I kind of latch onto to make a cocktail with? So maybe they're known for sort of being bold and outspoken, and I might give them a really bold cocktail. Or if they're known for writing really sort of clean, spare prose, a clear cocktail. Or, you know, some cases I'll go for something a little more obvious. So if a character of theirs has a favorite kind of alcohol, I might try to put that in the cocktail. So like Agatha Christie Poirot, he really likes creme de menthe. So I put that into her cocktail. So yeah, it's a bit of a lengthy process. And then when it comes to making the cocktail itself, you know, like I'll figure out the approach, but then I have to actually figure out what that cocktail is. And sometimes I can take it in different directions. And, you know, sometimes I'll try out 2 totally different directions, or sometimes I'll like really know what I want to do, but it's more like trying 6 different versions of the same cocktail. So yeah, there's a fair amount of taste testing. Every once in a while, I just nail it the first time, but there's usually a little bit of experimentation. So people often ask me to like, oh, do you drink all of the cocktails? And no, I wouldn't get any work done if I did that. But I usually have one of them. And then I can kind of I can drink it as I try and write the profile, which is the next step after I've done all this research. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like such a fun way to learn about a person. And similarly, I also create drink recipes, and that's also how, you know, sometimes when you have an idea and you're like, oh, I love this thing, and you try it and practice and it just absolutely doesn't work. But then the times that you hit it are the most satisfying. And I can only imagine it feeling like, oh yes, I have this recipe and it really feels like it speaks to who this person is. It's very, very cool. Yeah. Do you have a favorite thing that you learned while doing research for this book?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of little interesting facts. I found it really funny that Sayaka Murata, the author of Convenience Store Woman, even after she became famous for writing this novel in Japan, she continued to work at a convenience store because she just liked it so much. Unfortunately, that came to an end because a fan started stalking her because I guess he found out she worked at this convenience store.
Oh, yikes.
But, yeah. But anyway, I thought it was kind of great that she just loved the convenience store that much.
Yeah.
I found it fascinating that Agatha Christie used to work in a hospital pharmacy and learned about poisons while doing that, which is knowledge that she ended up applying to her books.
Very cool.
Yeah, those are
kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I know. She also, I didn't include this in her write-up, but earlier in her career, I believe she was, in fact, sort of known at this point. She went missing, which is another weird fact about her. It was like this huge, like, news story. Like there were all these headlines about her. She went missing for like 48 hours or something like that. And I believe she didn't even know what happened to her. So
My God.
interesting. Google that.
Creepy.
I know. It's like something that would happen in one of her books, but yeah.
Wild. Some of the authors that you feature are, of course, no longer on this earth, but some of them are alive. Were you able to speak with any of the living authors that you featured? Or did you even want to?
So I generally don't talk to the people that I do the tribute cocktails for before the books are published. Largely because that would just be a bit of a logistical nightmare.
Fair.
Yeah. But after some of the books have published, I have had exchanges with people about their write-ups or their cocktails. So a couple of examples of that. Tanya Tagaq, the throat singer, the Inuit throat singer, she found her listing in Free the Tipple, and she posted about the cocktail, which I thought was pretty cool. And Rupi Kaur, the famous poet, she also relatively recently was in a bookstore and found Free the Tipple as well, and was
No way.
yeah, she was displaying it on Instagram. So she is also in Buzzworthy, so I might see if I can maybe get a copy to her, which would be kind of fun. But
you definitely should. Yeah, it'd be great. Especially if she then made her cocktails. Oh, that's a dream.
I feel like that's more than I can ask for, but yeah, I like that I've gotten that kind of appreciation in the past. So hopefully one of these people will see it and like it. They have to like it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. How long did this book take you to write?
I feel like a book like this could take a very long time to write. But I had a contracted deadline. So yeah, I think I probably wrote it in 9 or 10 months, something like that. Yeah, which I do have a day job, so the timeline is a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write your book?
I work with a creative partner whose name is Olivia McGiff. She's an illustrator, so we work together. And so when I say we, I'm kind of referring to the two of us. We started working on Cocktails in Color before we had pitched it to an agent or to a publisher. So we had worked on it for quite a while. Probably in total was maybe like 4 years, but from signing contract to submitting the final, everything was like maybe a year. Yeah. So that's similar. Yeah. When you've got deadlines, you just have to get it done.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah. Did that include all of your recipe testing as well?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I know.
Oh my God. I hope you have some like really good drinkers in your circle who can help you out with the taste testing.
I mostly just do it. I sometimes get other people to help me, but like when you're on a tight timeline like that, I might be doing it at like 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night, and I'm not necessarily going to be like, hey, come over and test the cocktail.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's a lot of me.
Yeah. So Buzzworthy, like all of your other books, it's illustrated. Why do you want your books to be illustrated? Like, what do you love about illustration versus using photographs for something like this?
Yeah, so like in general, I think that illustration just gives the books a really fun feel. I want to shout out, I'm going to hold up the book again. I want to shout out Rochelle Baker, the illustrator who worked on this book. Her work is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'll just like another one.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
she did, her portraits are just great. So it gives the book a really fun aesthetic. It makes it look, in my opinion, very cool. It's just sort of a nice object. But the other aspect of illustration is that, because we have, this book it's not just cocktails, it's also biographies. And if we weren't doing illustration and we were using photographs, they would all look a lot different. Getting rights to them would be an issue, but overall the book would have less of a consistent look to it. So this allows us to have just like a consistent visual style, and for everything to just kind of look unified and sort of work well together. So so that's what I like about illustration. I know that illustration was also, sorry to ask you 2 questions in a row.
Oh my gosh, please, it's okay.
Illustration is a big part of your book too. What was it about illustration that you liked for a cocktail book?
I mean, Olivia is an illustrator, so we kind of always started with this idea that we would have a fully illustrated cocktail book. And the way we kind of started was, she's not a bartender and I am, and she would come to my bars and like sketch on receipt paper and like draw some of my original cocktails and make, like, we call them like cocktail portraits. And so we kind of just did it for fun for a while, as like a way to just share our interests and collaborate with each other. So that it kind of grew from there. But in terms of like what I love about illustration instead of photographs for something like a cocktail book or a cookbook or whatever, is like, it just feels like it makes whatever it is, like the deliciousness of her paintings like matches the deliciousness of the drink. It just like makes it come to life a little bit more. And especially cocktail books, a lot of them are like so kind of serious and sad, which is why I love your book so much. They're so like happy and joy, you know what I mean? Like a stark image of like a martini glass with like oil being shot over this. It's like, nah, okay, I get it. Like, it's also fun. Like, we drink for fun. And I think it really represents that too. But also, like, if you're familiar with Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, that was like the first cookbook that was illustrated that really inspired me, because of her, Samine and Wendy, the illustrators, like, they were like, cooking is your own. It shouldn't match a photograph. Like, what you make is never gonna match like a photo. And with an illustration, it literally, your drink or your dish like literally cannot match the illustration because it's a painting. So I think it just like, I think it just kind of like subliminally lets you take more ownership over what you're making. So
yeah, that's a really cool point. And I'm going to point that out if anyone else asks me this question.
So you mentioned that you're a book editor during the day. How does your job as a book editor influence your writing and how you envision the way you want your books to look?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a reciprocal thing. Being an editor affects how I work as a writer and vice versa. I really think in terms of the main ways it would affect my writing would just, it makes me more organized, I think. It also makes me just incapable of handing in things that are rough. So there's also that. I like want to edit my own work.
Right.
But it also helps me in terms of understanding what's reasonable for a book, just like, ways of organizing the content differently, that kind of thing. Generally knowing how the process works. So but I think it's helpful on both sides for me, for sure.
Do you ever dabble in other kinds of writing? You write these awesome cocktail books, you're an editor. Like, do you ever kind of play around with other written forms?
Right now, between my day job and my night job writing cocktail books, I don't have a ton of free time. But when I was younger, I definitely did. I mean, when I was a little kid, I would like write books and sort of bind them together. And when I was a teenager, I wrote poetry. I've tried writing fiction too, and I have some of that tucked away somewhere. But it's challenging though. Like, you really need the time to dedicate to it. But I'm definitely a fan of both writing and reading. So
yeah. And so back to like the research kind of component of this book, I mean, there's so much to include about a person. How on earth do you, pardon the pun, distill it into like a single page?
Yeah, it is tough. I do think that is another place where being an editor comes in handy. Sometimes, I write something that is quite long and then I just cut it down. I am definitely good at cutting things down to what's necessary. But also sometimes I have to make some decisions when I'm writing someone's bio in terms of what I'm going to focus on. So if someone has lived a really long, really productive life where they've just done a million different things, I probably can't include all of them. So I may sort of just focus it in a certain direction. Yeah, I would say that there aren't as, I usually manage to cover most of the ground in someone's life though. So I hit most of the main points.
Yeah. Kind of on that, like in specifically Joyce Carol Oates's profile, you talk about her online presence and that she's an enthusiastic and yet sometimes controversial Twitter presence. Did you want to talk about more of the kind of like potentially controversial parts of people's lives or kind of shy away from that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of funny to point out. So at the point that I was writing the Joyce Carol Oates one, she was kind of controversial, and now everyone loves her. So I guess that's when you're outspoken, that can happen. But sorry, I just need a sip of water here. Yeah, generally speaking, this book and all of the tribute cocktail books are meant to be celebratory. So I wasn't really leaning into the sort of controversial aspects of people's lives if they were there. But mainly, I guess, if someone, if I thought that celebrating a certain person with a cocktail would be difficult, I probably didn't make the decision to include them in the book. So if someone is like totally racist or something like that, I wasn't going to include them. In general, I don't want people to find these books upsetting. So, I've tried to choose people who, where you're going to be able to make the cocktail and sort of feel good about it. I will say that if this was not a tribute cocktail book, if it was just like a history of female writers, I would probably take a different approach and include some of the more controversial or unsavory characters as well. But that's a different context. It's sort of one where you get into more criticism. So yeah, but in general, I want people to have fun with the books. So
yeah, oh, absolutely. So what do you think the connection is between like reading and drinking or books and cocktails?
I feel like there are lots of different ways to answer this question. It is just nice to have a cocktail while reading a book and relaxing. But if you want sort of a more think PC kind of that, I feel like they're both things that can kind of change the way that you think. Books, of course, introduce new ideas and sort of introduce new ways of thinking for people. And cocktails, can help kind of loosen your perspective or put you kind of on a different mental level that allows you to see things in a new way. So I think both of them can kind of help you come to different conclusions about things or just find new thinking. The asterisk being that you can consume as many books as you want, but with cocktails, you only want to change your thinking so much.
Yeah, maybe it's got to be a little bit more moderate.
Yeah.
That's funny. So how do you see readers engaging with your book?
I am hoping, my hope for this book is that it's kind of like attending a book club. I feel like it would be a very good book club book. So I hope people browse through the book, find a writer who fascinates them, make the cocktail, and hopefully after that, read one of the writer's books. I am hoping that people can discover their new favorite writer and maybe their new favorite cocktail at the same time. I really, it's a book of tribute cocktails. They're all authors that are easy to admire. And I hope people actually find new writers that they like and read their stuff.
Yeah. And something I love about your book too is that there is a reading list in the back. So it feels like, oh my God, if I ever need a suggestion for a new book, I know exactly where to go. It functions just like a book club. It's fabulous. So on that, do you have a favorite cocktail and do you have a favorite book? Two very difficult questions.
Oh, yeah. Favorite cocktail. I am really, really partial to a mezcal margarita. Favorite book. That one is too hard. I can't pick a favorite. There are way too many. Yeah, but the favorite cocktails, definitely the mezcal margarita.
Yeah. And so in your intro, I love this imagery of you talk about like settling in for the night with a drink and a book. What is your like dream version of that? Like where are you? What are you drinking? What are you reading?
So very recently, I was in Baja, California in Mexico. And I loved how serene it was there. The beaches with the big crashing waves and just really, really lovely down there. And so I'm in Baja, California. I am by the pool or at the beach. Maybe I'm at the beach. And I'm drinking a mezcal margarita, which is easy to come by there. And I think I'm gonna plug someone that I know. I'm reading my good friend Doretta Lau's short story collection, which is How Does a Single Blade of Grass Thank the Sun? It's really funny. You should all read it. And she's also writing a new novel, so that'll come out relatively soon, and then I can put her in my next book.
Yay! Oh my God, friends supporting friends.
Yeah, same question for you. What's your cocktail setting?
It is such a good question. I feel like I have several, like for a couple of different occasions. I think lately, so I did move a couple of months ago, and I went through a breakup, and immediately after the breakup, I bought this yellow armchair that I absolutely adore, and he did not really like the color, and I was like, I'm buying my armchair, and so now I have this big yellow armchair, just from IKEA, but it's like it feels like a kind of like special place to me, and so right now I love settling into my big yellow armchair. Drinking, I think whenever I choose to have a cocktail with a book, I want it to be something that I can like sip on for a while. So probably like a Manhattan. I feel like Manhattan is like the cocktail equivalent of a big cozy armchair anyway.
Yeah.
And then what am I reading? In like a dream scenario, probably a book that I know I love, but maybe haven't read in a long time, like White Teeth by Zadie Smith, or, something that like I know I'm going to enjoy, but I'll still find like fun and surprising again and still new.
That's a very comforting sounding scenario. I really like that.
Yeah, yellow chair, Manhattan, Zadie Smith. That's my final answer. So what are you currently reading?
So I am actually rereading a book that I read a long time ago, which is one that is in Buzzworthy. So The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. It's just I read it so long ago that I barely remember, and I want to really refresh my mind. So yeah.
I love going back to books that you visited a long time ago and seeing them in a new light. And so let's maybe talk about who we're gonna drink today. We're gonna make the Mary Shelley, right? So why'd you want to demo this cocktail? I guess we're demoing a book too in a way, but
yeah, definitely. So I wanted to make a cocktail where it would be relatively simple for people to follow along at home, because I know that some of the people on the call might make the cocktail themselves as well. And this one doesn't require complicated or hard to find ingredients. And on the sort of other level beyond the cocktail, Shelley is, of course, a very famous writer. And I figured that people would already be familiar with her legacy and know that she is the author of Frankenstein. And sort of knowing the author's biography already would probably help them enjoy the cocktail more. So that's what.
Cool. Yeah, if you didn't have to read Frankenstein in the 8th grade, I mean, I feel like we all know her in some way. So how did you begin to even kind of think about this cocktail? It's a drink that's, you know, maybe half Manhattan, half margarita. That feels kind of kooky and Frankenstein-y-ish in a way. So how do you come up with it?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I usually try to pick up on some aspect of someone's life or work and use that as my inspiration. And in this case, it was Frankenstein's monster from the story. You know, and we of course think of things as resembling Frankenstein when they like stitch together different contrasting elements. And that's what I've done here. So combining the flavors of a Manhattan, so sweet vermouth, Angostura cherry with margarita, lime and tequila. So yeah, that was the basis for it.
Awesome. And yeah, why do you like these flavors together? I mean, I've never really had something with this flavor combination before.
So I would be lying if I didn't say it's because it tastes a lot like a margarita. But it has some complexity and some mystery there that I don't think you get with your typical margarita. And maybe a little bit of that sort of comforting aspect that you were talking about, because you were just talking about a Manhattan as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny that like
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were going to say that you wanted to drink a Manhattan. So
I didn't even know I was going to say that until I said it. So
it's kind of it's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
Oh my God, perfect. Should we make it?
I think we should. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get ice, and then I'm gonna do this really crazy thing where I turn my computer around. So,
Whoa. And if you're following along with us, get your ingredients ready, grab your ice. I'm gonna maybe turn on another light in my house since it's got kind of dark. That's too bright. Ready to make this drink. Now, after talking about cocktails and books for a while, I'm like, okay, I'm so ready.
And I just wanted to pop in and say now is a good time for everyone in the audience to start thinking of any questions you have, and you can get them ready to go in the chat in just a couple of minutes.
All right, cool. So Jen, you ready? You got your stuff?
it's mostly around me, yeah, in a sort of semi-organized manner.
Amazing.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so the first ingredient, I guess I should tell people what's in this.
Maybe.
The first ingredient is 1.5 shots of amber tequila. Here's the stuff I've got.
I've got this guy.
Oh, and I should clarify for people as well that this book uses a shots measurement, but a shot is equal to 1 ounce. So this is actually 1.5 ounces.
It's a good clarification. I did ask you that question too.
Yeah.
All right, tequila. Yeah.
And then the next ingredient is 1 shot of sweet vermouth. Here's mine.
Dun, da, da, da. I feel like also a bartender hot tip for those on the call who might not know, vermouth should always be kept in your fridge.
Yes.
Because it's a fresh product. If you've ever had bad tasting vermouth, it's probably because it just went bad, not that it was actually bad.
I have found some really horrifying examples of old vermouth in people's apartments when I visited. It's like, you know,
terrifying.
Old vermouth.
Like dusty on the shelf, and you're like, you should just go out and buy a new bottle. You'll be happy.
Okay, so the next is 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice.
Okay, I'm fresh squeezing my lime juice as we speak. Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, and fresh pressed is like always the way to go for cocktails. 3/4, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
And then a 1/2 shot of cherry hearing, which is here.
Yay. Like a kind of rich cherry liqueur.
Yeah.
Which I really like this stuff. I wasn't too familiar with it for a little bit, but once you use it in like the right way, it's like, oh, delicious.
Yeah. And then 2 dashes of Angostura.
Okay.
And then we are, oh, where's my glass? Where's my glass? I am actually using a little Nick and Nora glass for this rather than
A coupe. I have a coupe. Is that
yeah,
acceptable? Okay.
that's acceptable. Okay, so we're gonna shake.
Okay. Add ice. Uh-oh, an ice cube fell on the floor. My dog might attack it. All right.
All right, here we go.
Yay!
Okay.
Yeah, my dog loves the sound of shaking. I don't know. She gets like all excited. She's like, the party's here.
Little bartender's dog.
Yeah, it's actually true. All right. Ooh, yeah.
Okay, and then here's what mine looks like so far.
Gorgeous. Yay.
And then we were going to garnish this with a cherry.
It's like the one thing that I forgot to get, so I'm gonna have mine garnishless, unfortunately.
All right. So here is the finished cocktail.
So beautiful. Well, cheers, Jen. This was so fun.
Yeah.
Congratulations on Buzzworthy. It's such a great book. If you guys didn't already pre-order it, order it now. Get your hands on it because you're going to want to make all these cocktails and learn about these awesome women. So yeah, cheers. Yay. Oh, that's so yummy.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's exactly like a margarita met in Manhattan. Was like, hey, let's go out. Yeah, that's delicious.
Both of our favorites combined.
I know. Incredible, actually. Did not even plan that. Cool. So I guess we'll open it to some chat questions. All right, we've got, let me see, I'm gonna open the chat here. All right, from Alexi, who is your favorite author to research for the book and or cocktail?
Ooh, that is tough. My favorite author to research. I know that I already mentioned those interesting Agatha Christie stories. So I'm gonna say she was definitely, I already told you about them though, but she was my favorite to research because there were just so many like strange, unexpected aspects to her life. But I'm not a huge fan of creme de menthe. The cocktail I made is pretty good if you like creme de menthe, but I don't think that is my favorite cocktail. I'm going to say that my favorite cocktail, or the one that I just found the most fun, is the Torrey Peters cocktail, which is it's tropical, kind of tiki. It's bright pink, and it is based on the bright pink of her motorbike, which yeah, so she rides a bright pink Kawasaki motorbike, and the reason it's bright pink is because she doesn't want people to think that it's her boyfriend's motorbike.
Oh, I love that. She's like, absolutely not, this is mine, no questions asked. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted her to have a cocktail to really match that vibe, so it's so like cool. Really over the top tropical fun. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. Michael asks, I'm planning to get my mom a copy of Buzzworthy for Mother's Day. Great idea, Michael. Is there anything else you recommend I should get her to go along with it to round out the gift?
Yeah, first of all, I will just say that that's a really great idea for a Mother's Day present. I know that people have done a lot of this with Free the Tipple, giving it as a gift. And I am going to say that the ideal thing to do would be to buy the book and then pick one of the authors in the book that you think your mom's going to like. And get the ingredients for that cocktail to go along with the book so that your mom can make the cocktail. But on top of that, also get your mom one of the books by that author too, and then you've got like a full package. They can just like, really enjoy the experience of the book.
That's the best. It's like you have already like it's like a gift basket of books. That's awesome. That's such a great idea. Might steal it. Sorry, Mom. Allie asks, if you could drink a buzzworthy cocktail with any of the women featured in the book, who would it be? It's a really good question.
Ooh, who would I want to drink with in this book? Well, honestly, like I feel like Joyce Carol Oates would be fun. Yeah, she seems like she would say a lot of interesting things. And I have been following her on Twitter recently, and she's been posting a lot of pictures of her cats, and which I enjoy. And I feel like she would say a lot of things that I would remember. So
Right.
notable things happening at my drinks with Joyce Carol Oates.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that too. Cool. We have a little bit more time if anybody else has another question. Jen, did you discover like a new kind of favorite drink while you were making these recipes too? Like either a classic or one that you created, like, oh, I never actually really thought about that flavor or ingredient before because, one of the authors kind of inspired you to work with it.
Yeah. Thinking about that as I flip through the book.
It's a tricky question too, especially since, publishing takes a while. So I'm sure you made these recipes quite a bit ago.
I did. I also don't know that this book, I wasn't being as weird as I was in some of the other ones. Like probably the most experimental one is Art Boozle, because it was about artists and I was trying to, be a bit experimental. This one, I wanted them to be sort of fun but approachable. But one ingredient that I hadn't used before is, and you probably have, Murdo. Which is a myrtleberry liqueur.
I haven't actually. No.
Yeah, so it's like an Italian myrtleberry liqueur, and it's not like mega sweet. It's kind of like, I think it's got like botanicals in it too. It's interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and I used it in a drink for Carmen Maria Machado. It's like yeah, it's an interesting ingredient that I want to use more, but I only used it in the one drink though, because for me, I don't necessarily assume that the people buying my books have like a massive bar with like everything available. So
totally.
I try to make sure that people can actually make the drinks for the most part in the book. So therefore, I don't know that I will use it in too many recipes, but I plan to drink a bunch of it myself. So
yeah, I mean, I've never even heard of it. That's also like my kind of MO in creating cocktails, fun and approachable. It's something that I was also thinking about when working on Cocktails in Color, was trying not to use too many specialty liqueurs that you have to go out and buy a $40 bottle of, to only use half an ounce, and you don't even know if you're going to like it yet. It's a lot to ask. So I always appreciate when cocktail creators are conscious of that. Yeah.
Anyone got anything else? You can ask like a goofy question too. It doesn't have to be
goofy.
Cocktail mixing equipment. So I think this is probably going to depend a lot on where you live. in Canada, there's a great store. It's actually in Toronto, called Cocktail Emporium. But they ship widely. I think they probably ship internationally. Their stuff is really nice. And they've got some in-house lines as well that are quite affordable and really nice looking. So I would recommend checking them out. Yeah, there's some other places in Vancouver that I'm not going to get into because they don't ship, and they're just like kind of
Right, little niche.
like this little like dusty hole in the wall kind of place that like only people in the know kind of go to. But Cocktail Emporium is the one I would shout out. What about you, Sammi?
Yeah, I pretty much always get my stuff from Cocktail Kingdom. I think it's just cocktailkingdom.com. They have a showroom in New York, but they ship anywhere. So it's really accessible. It's a little bit on the pricier side, as opposed to like, getting a $5 strainer or something from Amazon, but their stuff is really high quality. And they have like a bunch of different kind of varieties of things. So like a jigger, the one that I use is Leopold, shaped like a bell, but they also have like the Japanese style of sleek ones. They come in all different like colors and finishes, and they have a bunch of other like fun stuff, different size. And you can get too nerdy there probably in terms of like, how long do you want your bar spoon? But for the most part, like their stuff is solid and accessible via the internet. So I kind of always send people there when I get asked that question.
Great. Well, we gave options for both sides of the border. So
there we go. Look at us. So versatile. Cool.
Okay. It seems like it's gonna be.
I don't know if anyone's got any fun, goofy questions.
Maybe if anyone has made the cocktail at home, if they
I'd love to know.
They made it in real time, if they can maybe throw in the comments how it went, or when you're planning to make the cocktail. If you can't make it tonight, when do you think you might try it?
I'm gonna make another one like soon, so that counts. Yeah.
I will be making it this weekend for sure.
Yeah, very tasty. I feel like it satisfies like a lot of palates too.
Yeah, you can give this to your friend who only likes kind of like juicy, fruity cocktails, but also like the sort of the boozier kinds of flavors as well. So
it satisfies that. Yeah, I haven't had this kind of like vermouth forward, like still citrusy cocktail. Yeah. It's really nice. Great work.
Yeah.
Well, I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you both for speaking to us tonight. Oh, here we go. We'll make it Friday, but with twice as much tequila.
Oh, great.
Make sure it's balanced, Michael.
That is a great way to end. Michael, please report back and let us know how it goes. Tag MOFAD and everyone involved on Twitter or whatever social media platform you choose to use. Once again, thank you so much to everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you to Jennifer and Sammi for joining us and sharing all of this wonderful information and all these stories with us. Go buy the book and let us know what other cocktails you make. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is so fun.
Thanks so much, Sammi.
Thank you, Jen.
You did a great job hosting. Thanks.
And you did a great job answering all my questions.